Okay, good morning, Rashmi.
Good morning, Maski. How are you?
I'm doing very fine. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
So tell me, how did you start teaching English? What is your background? Tell me about yourself.
Well, I stumbled upon teaching English. I started teaching English about well 7 years ago.
Hmm.
It was just before the pandemic started, and since I've been living as a single mom
Hmm.
because my husband worked on the ship. So I needed something that offered me flexible timing, and I love kids. I
Hmm.
have a child of my own. So a friend of mine recommended teaching online because of the flexible timing. And that's the reason why I started teaching. However, I did not have a teaching background before that. I never taught children before that. I worked for an event company for over 6 years. And later on, I also worked on a cruise ship because I loved traveling. So I thought it was a great opportunity. So I worked in the HR department, and I did my education as well. I have an MBA, a master's in business from University of East London. So I got the opportunity to live in London as well.
Which do you prefer? Do you prefer teaching adults or teaching children? How are they different and how are they similar?
I think in terms of adults, I think you need to be a bit more intellectual because you are teaching people who are professionals. So you need to have some form of knowledge in the language. You need to have a good set of vocabulary. You need to talk about topics that is relatable to adults. Because the previous company I worked for, we had to work with adults who come from various professional backgrounds, and the topics that we're discussing were also related to some of them were related to the field they were working in, or some of the topics were related to politics, which is a sensitive topic. So it is challenging to teach adults as well. But on the other hand, with children, I think you need more energy. You need to have more energy to keep the child interested in the lesson that you're doing. So I think it requires a lot more patience when it comes to teaching children, unlike adults. Adults, I think, need to have a lot of knowledge, but with children, you just need a lot of patience. But overall, I think there is equal amount of pros and cons to teaching adults and children because
So you teach mainly children now, right?
yes, I
Okay.
mainly teach
So what
children.
are
I've
the
been
challenges that
teaching.
you are facing? What are some things that are making your job difficult?
Um, One of the things that I think makes it a little difficult is that the curriculum that is given to each of the is assigned to each of the students. It's not exactly suited to the type of student, so it becomes very difficult because the student's level is different compared to the assigned lessons that's given to them. I think that's a bit difficult because sometimes the lessons are a bit too hard, so it's a little difficult to get the student to understand. I think that's one of the things. And also, using too much props during classes, I think it's quite distracting. Also, the other challenges are the children are, some of them are very, very young. So the lessons really don't make much of a difference because they want a more interactive talking. They don't want to really get into the lesson. I think that's one of the most challenging. And also the fact that some of the children are very different in their learning abilities, and you have very limited time to explain to them and to really suit to really do the lesson that would be appropriate for the children for that particular child. So, and most of the times you have different children and the children have different teachers, so it's very hard to build a connection. I think those are some of the areas that I feel is very challenging for me
Tell me,
personally.
with the very young learners, what would be the solution to this issue? So the curriculum is actually in your way. Do you think that the online environment is a problem to good teaching, or do you think that the online environment is okay for a young child, but the approach needs to be changed?
Environment is perfectly fine because the fact that children are surrounded by technologies at the moment. Children love using laptops, iPads, phones, etc. So I think the environment is suited for them. Unlike in my generation, we did not have these kind of options. So I think it's perfect for them. However, in terms of the material, the course material, I think it should be a little bit more interactive, a little bit less repetitive. I think children have the ability to grasp things faster if it's more interactive rather than repetitive. So, like for example, we have one lesson where we talk about enunciating or pronunciation of a particular letter. We go on with that letter for like 3, 4 slides, which tend to become boring, and we have to cover them because it's a part of the lesson. So I think 1 or 2 slides, which is very interactive, and when a student can actually do something, I think that's enough for children. I don't think we need extended amount of repetition. I don't think that is necessary for kids.
Do the company requirements limit the teacher's ability to adjust the lesson quality to each student?
Yes, I do feel that way because I think the company has its own strategy when it comes to teaching children. They feel that, of course, they've done a lot of research and what works best, what type of curriculum or way of teaching works best. So they try to get the teachers to follow that way because again, it is what they are marketing and what they are selling is the way they teach. So they want the teachers to do and follow that same way of teaching. And I think that's very problematic for a lot of teachers because, like students, teachers have their own way of teaching which is effective for them. But when you are forced to teach a certain way that the company wants you to teach, and it's not really suited to your way of teaching, it kind of becomes a bit monotonous and it kind of feels like a lot of pressure. And I think that is reflected when they are teaching the student, which I think is which is not effective for the child's learning because you're pretending to be something you're not. So you're teaching the way you don't feel like you should be teaching.
I
So it
agree
all reflects,
completely.
and the children are very observant. So
Mm-hmm.
they do notice when you are getting frustrated because it automatically they start mirroring
Mm-hmm.
your behavior as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a bit of a problem.
If you had a chance to do it independently by yourself, how would you change it?
If I were to do something like this independently, I would probably, I think, I wouldn't put that much pressure on on the teachers. I would actually make the teachers there for guidance, but I would try to create a platform where the children have the ability to learn on their own. I think that's very important because when you learn on your own, it builds curiosity. It tends to stick to what you have learned, so you can remember something that you learned 5 years ago. If you learn something by yourself, so I would definitely create a platform where children have to really think. So a lot of interactive slides, a lot of interactive lessons where the children have to really figure it out. So their thinking skills are improved. So and the teachers are there just for guidance. If they have a question or if something they don't know, then they are just there for guidance. But I think self-learning for children is actually very good because in the future they will know how to deal with things on their own without having an outer influence. I think that's the kind of platform I would like to create for children.
I
More
see.
like gaming because nowadays, yeah, gaming is very popular.
Mm-hmm.
So I think something like that would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, using the resources available on the internet, would you be able to create a curriculum for each child individually?
Um, it would be possible, but if you're a private tutor and you cannot obviously have the same amount of students that a company could have, which has multiple amount of tutors. So if it was a platform where only I was the one teaching, then yes, the number of students that I would have, I would be able to create that kind of platform for them, because it will be very specific to the child's need. And obviously, I'm not going to be taking about 100 students, unlike a company, which becomes then robotic. Then I'd have to create a curriculum that suits everyone. But if I was doing it on my own, then I would create specific lessons for the children because, like I said before, every child has a different learning ability. Some are a bit quicker, some are a bit faster. Some of them have different levels, same age but different levels. So I think I would customize it to each child that I teach. Yes.
Do you think that the personal connection with a private tutor or teacher or mentor is important for the child's growth?
It is important for the child's growth because children tend to, it's very important that they have a connection because if you cannot connect as a child to the adult, I think you don't learn anything. And as I mentioned before, children tend to mirror the people they like. So if they see, for example, their mums, which actually is very natural, when they see their mum being kind, a child who idolizes her mum would do the same thing. And I think that applies with the teachers as well, or mentors as well. So it's very important that there is a connection created between the child and the mentor. They are in sync. So the child learns faster in comparison with someone they don't connect with. So the type of mentor you have is very, very important for each child.
What is
Yes.
the advantage for the parent to have a personal connection to the teacher?
I think the advantage of the personal connection with the teacher is that it creates a better environment for the teacher and the parent. I think the form of trust is very, very important because, as you already know, and you mentioned that I have a 7-year-old daughter. So I think, interaction with the teacher to know how she's progressing, how her interaction is with the teacher. All that communication is very important because, of course, I would like to know whether my child is doing well or she's lagging behind. So I think it's very important to have a good relation. And I think if the parent has a good relationship with the tutor, it automatically helps the tutor perform better because it's a form of appreciation as well from the parent side. Like, thank you for teaching my child. So I think teachers tend to feel much more happier and content if the parents are content. I mean, the whole idea of teaching their child is to, of course, it's not just monetary, but also the kind of appreciation, verbal appreciation, thank yous. I think all that is very important. So interaction is important with both the connection. Yes.
Okay. I will list down in the comment section or in the description of this video your contacts, your
Okay.
socials, so that people can
Mhm.
contact you. I'm very grateful for
Mhm.
your time and grateful for this conversation. I agree
Thank you.
with all what you said completely.
Thank you very much for having me, Maski. It was an absolute pleasure, and thank you for asking all these questions. I think it's very important that as tutors we have the opportunity to vocal out what we think would be ideal for the children, because at the end of the day, the company is not working. We as tutors are working with the children, so I think we know exactly what suits best. So no disregard to the company. I think they're doing a great job overall, though.
Yes, yes, I
So
agree.
thank you.
I agree completely.